So it's December 17, 2019, and I've lost about 5 pounds over the past month or so before getting ready for Christmas. Maybe I can eat more. I don't know. Maybe I'll even lose a little bit more weight. I'd love to get down to 150. Now, that's despite going to New York and going out with family to a lot of nice restaurants. I've shared with you, number one, I've had my own losing 30 pounds weight or 30-pound weight loss experience. That was when I was in college. I got up about 185, 190 pounds. My healthiest weight appears to be like 150 to 155. And again, I've shared some of my thoughts about weight loss. First, you have to know your insulin resistance status. And if you can't metabolize carbs, don't eat them. Don't eat a lot of them anyway. Don't live on carbs. Understand the importance of BMI. For example, if you say, well, my BMI is big because I'm big bone. Well, look, this is Arnold Schwarzenegger, BMI of 30 in 1970. So if your BMI is in the high 20s or 30s and you look like that, okay, but that's not usually the case. BMI is important. And why? Because of fat mass. Fat is not an inert storage material. It is an endocrine tissue. It releases inflammatory and insulin-resistant hormones. Now, a couple of other things. Be careful with exercise during weight loss periods. I just overdid my hill runs recently and was wiped out last night. But overall, I'm feeling really good and enjoying the holidays and celebrating with my family. But let me go back. Portion control is a big deal. Now, I sound like, maybe I'm a lightweight in terms of weight loss. Let me just give you another perspective on my family of origin. My dad he was my height, 5'10". He weighed over 350 pounds at one point in his life. So I learned some bad habits. One of the worst ones was the one with portion control. So I'll do this over and over and over again. I'll get set up with a good set of eating rules, like I cut my carbs, or I'll do my 2-day fast per week, or I'll do my intermittent, closing the window, intermittent fasting, skipping breakfast, whatever you want to call that. But then I'll start slipping more and more calories back in, bigger and bigger portions when I can eat. And I got back up over 160. Actually, I got to like 163. And my blood pressure starts hitting up around the 130s, systolic, when I do that. So I needed to do a little something. And yes, I'm going to talk about something that pushes this issue of the limits of the calories in, calories out theory and the hormonal theories. There's no question that it's more than just calories in, calories out. Gary Taubes, David Ludwig, Robert Lustig, they were all correct when they're talking about the hormonal theory of weight loss. In other words, as we get middle-aged and we get that middle-aged spread, maybe we're not getting fat because we're eating more. Maybe we're eating more because we're getting fat. In other words, that insulin, as it continues to creep up, because our blood sugar is creeping up and our body's getting insulin resistant, that insulin is shutting down our fat burning. So that fat continues to stay there instead of burning away like it did when we were in our 20s. But here's the thing. I 100% agree with the hormonal theory of weight loss, but it does have its limits. This urban myth that you can eat 6,000 calories a day and on keto and stay thin is just not true unless you're burning a whole lot of calories. David Ludwig, head of the obesity unit at Harvard and a great researcher in this area and a big believer in the hormonal theory, has demonstrated a lot of science around this space. And he says, look, there is evidence that you decrease your efficiency of calorie burn, but not most people. And even those that do, we're talking about 20%. If your basal metabolic rate is like 2,000, 2,500, something like that, you can't eat 6,000 calories and depend on staying keto to keep your weight down. So the point is, we got to remember that there's a balanced approach that we need to have. There's the hormonal theory versus the bank account theory. And there's something even bigger than either one of those things, and that is behavior. We have to have rules that we can fit within our behavior. Somebody gave me a lot of grief for giving airtime to Penn Jillette's potato mono diet. This is Penn in front of the green background, 100 pounds heavier than Penn in front of the blue background. The difference was he switched to eating nothing but potatoes for a very long time. Now I have every suspicion that the heavier Penn was insulin resistant. So you'd say, eating nothing but carbs for somebody that's insulin resistant? You know what? That's not my go-to diet. But what happened was, and he said it very clearly, he said, look, once I started eating nothing but potatoes, they tasted okay sometimes, but it was really clear. I only ate when I was hungry. I quit all of this other eating. And he dropped 100 pounds. And here's the other bottom line. Penn Jillette in front of the blue, 100 pounds less, is a heck of a lot healthier than the other Penn Jillette. And he's kept it off for well over a year. So somebody suggested to me that I try this diet. I don't know if you remember, the last time I did a Prolon diet, Walter Longo's fasting mimicking diet, I had blood sugar spikes of up to around 180 when I would try this soup. Now, this other person said to me, look, I've got another diet. We're going to call it the mystery diet. I've got another diet, and it's low carb. It has a whole set of coaching and everything else around it. And try it and see what you think. Well, I did some comparison, and I tried it. And sure enough, the big thing on this diet, yes, it's low carb. If you look at the comparison here, each of these diets is about 40% carbs, 40% calories and fats, and maybe 10% in the Walter Longo's, 5 to 10%, whereas maybe 10 to 20% in this mystery diet. Both of the diets are looking at 800 to 1,200. Well, a little bit fewer calories on the Longo diet, 700 days 2 through 5 and 1,050 day 1. On this mystery diet, it's 800 to 1,250. And actually what you do is you only have 4 or 5 of these types of things a day, tiny little things, but you also get a lean meal with some sort of protein. And so you get a real meal each day along with it, and you can stay on it. You lose weight. It's very effective. That's what I've done. And like I said, it's been there. I've had trips to New York. I've been out celebrating with my family and didn't feel bad except a couple of times. Usually about the same thing with Prolon. So I'm actually starting to offer that now. If you have an interest in joining me for this, why don't you think about unwrapping a healthier you for the holidays? Thank you very much for your interest.
There's nothing like a community. We saw that in the Louisville event. People got together and started talking about how they've had challenges and successes in preventing their own heart attack, stroke, or chronic disease. It became very clear that you don't have to be a doc with a full-time 30-year career in preventive medicine to understand this and successfully prevent heart attack, stroke, the number one killer and disablers of people. You don't have to be a physician to prevent eye disease, kidney disease. All you have to do is think, listen, and become part of the community. Now, how do you do that? Go to the membership login on our webpage, and as you can see, you can get right in. You have to sign up if you haven't signed up already. And I've already signed up. I've already gone in. It's very simple, very easy to understand. In order to help encourage this, after the success and the positive emotion, the positive impact that we're seeing with these events, we're saying, look, we need to offer more of these services for free in order to help grow this community. So you'll see us starting to do drawings for the webinar event, the courses. We've got a book coming out in about a month. We'll be offering that. Even full-blown evaluations, providing those for free for folks that, again, help us grow the community. So if you'd like to find out what the most recent rules are for the most recent drawing, just come to the membership page. Thank you for your interest.